Hi there, this is Bethany Barnard with Stamping in the Barnyard, and I'm very excited to share this card with you today. It's a special fun fold. It folds up and will fit right inside one of our envelopes, but it opens up big and wide, and it's got lots of dimension, and it's using a sneak peek bundle from a special sneak peek suite collection, which I'll talk about, that's coming up in September in the US. It'll be available to customers on September 3rd. Right now, it's not even available to demonstrators. We had to pre-order this some months ago in order to get it in our hands. And so it's coming. But I just really love this Christmas card. It's so pretty with all this glimmer. Such a beautiful message, peace on earth. And then on the back, I've just put, may the spirit of the season bring you happiness and love. Merry Christmas. And I'll explain where that comes from as well. I've also used the Everyday Skies to get this background of stars. And these are 6x6 sheets, and this card takes an entire 6x6 sheet, and I will explain how to cut that up in order to make one card using just the one sheet of 6x6. But what's exciting about this set is that it's mostly these clouds that you see here, but on the reverse side, so you can see this has these clouds, but it has the stars on the opposite side. And there is the Blackberry Bliss, the Night of Navy, and also Misty Moonlight, which means that you can get, there's 4 sheets of each in here. So we're talking about at least 12 sheets with this design. There may be more, I didn't really count that out beforehand, but that you could repeat and make this card from one set of the DSP, Everyday Skies DSP, if you like this card as well. So this one's with the Blackberry Bliss base. This glimmer paper, it's part of the Peaceful Garden Suite collection that's going to be available in our mini catalog. It's part of the Peace on Earth bundle, and as I said, it's going to be available to the customer in the US on September 3rd. So you might want to keep this video so that you can make this card, and it's just one of those perks that demonstrators have to occasionally buy things in advance and enjoy them and have fun with them and play with them. So we're going to go ahead and get going. This fold is called Open Bay Window, and this particular, the measurements that I've used are based off of the measurements from Mitasu Crafts in England. But my dimensions are a little bit different, and theirs requires more paper. This starts out with 8.5 by 7 inches. So you're still gonna not be able to get 2 cards from an 8.5 by 11, but it's, I just like it. I feel like the dimensions, I prefer them. I tried theirs first, but I preferred my dimensions. So I will have those all in the description box, but I'm also going to take you through how that's cut and scored to be able to make this really wow card. I'm so excited. All right, let's get started. So as I said, we start with a piece that is 8.5. So this is 8.5, and this is 7. And what we did, and I've already scored and cut mine, but I'm going to take you through it real quickly just so you also will know how to do that. So you would put the 8.5 up at the top here, and you would score it at 1 inch, and then again at 2 1/4. And you could just turn this around and do the same thing, 1 inch and 2 1/4. But if you like the other measurements, then that would be at 6 1/4 here. And then at 7.5 inches. Whoops, 7.5 inches. That's how you do the scoring. And then you would turn it vertical from that, and you would just at 3/4 score all the way down, and then at 6 1/4 you would again score all the way down. The next thing you would do, so I have already done that, so you can see I just tried to go over. I think that's why the scoring tool slipped a few times because I wasn't really pressing hard or making that actually score because it's already scored. But then what you would do is at 1 inch, you would line this up to 3/4 of an inch. So that's that long mark on our trimmer right before 1 inches. So that's at 3/4. And then you would put the cutter blade at 1 inch, which you can see right here. And it's also, you can use this score that you've already made to see where that starts. And again, this is already cut, so I'm gonna kind of pretend cut, and you would bring that all the way down to your 1 inch here. So you're gonna go from that 1 inch to the 7.5, sorry. 1 inch to 7.5, and then turn it, and you're just gonna repeat the exact same thing. You're gonna put the paper in at 3/4, and then you're gonna cut either from 7.5 up to the 1 inch, or you can start at the 1 inch and cut down to the 7.5. And that's all you need to do to prep, sorry about that, bang the camera, to prep the base. Then we're gonna take our pieces that we've cut up of the DSP. And as I said, those measurements are in the, here, I'm gonna get these all out like this. Those measurements are under the description box, but it is sort of a special way to cut this in order to just get away with just one sheet. My first time making this, I had to go into a second sheet, but you know, we all wanna make as many cards as we can from our pack of DSPs, so I was able to figure it out to be able to get all of the pieces that I need just from that one sheet. And part of the way that I did that is the first thing I did was cut off 1.5 inches across the bottom because I wanted all my stars to be going in the same direction. So I had my 6x6 and I cut off that 1.5 inches. As I said, if you stay on the video, I will take you through how to cut this up at the very end, and you could even fast forward to that part if you want to see that part. In order to put our pieces on, I think it will be easier to see if we go ahead and fold this. So I'm going to fold it like a mountain on the first one, and because this is already cut, I'm going to be careful how I do that. And then we're going to fold it in here at the 2 1/4 fold. And then we're going to come around and we're going to do the same thing here. Mountain. And then you want to keep this one too. Valley on that 2 1/4 or 6 1/4 if you take it all the way out. I tend to turn my papers around and just do the, I only have to remember one measurement that way. Okay, so it helps to be able to really see these well, because now I'm gonna go ahead and adhere this DSP right in the center, and you will see that because I cut 1.5 inches off of the DSP, this measures 4 inches by 5.5. And so I've got a bigger border at the top and the bottom, but that's okay because we are gonna flip this around and it's gonna cover it. So nobody will see that that's actually not the same usual 1/8 of an inch border that we have on the top. We'll go ahead and adhere that. So this measures 5 inches by 3 3/4. But as I said, the way I cut it, I think will be a help for you to see at the end. Ooh, I shouldn't have quite done it this way, but I'm gonna move ahead here. Basically, you're still centering it. You are gonna get that 1/8 of an inch on either side, but you get 1/4 of an inch from the top and the bottom. But what I should have done first is stamped my Peace on Earth on here, and I am going to emboss that in white. So we're going to do that now before we do any of the folds, and I should still be able to manage that. So let's see, here's my Peace on Earth stamp, and as I said, that comes from the Peace on Earth bundle, which will be coming up. And the things you always want to make sure of before you emboss is it's so important to use your embossing buddy, because it will pick up any stray. And especially on a dark cardstock with white. The next thing, and we can later brush the extra powder from it off. Okay, so then we're going to stamp in Versamark, Peace on Earth. We don't want it too high because we're going to flip this over and cover it. We want a nice image, really, that can be seen here. Through the bay window when we get that going. And then I'm gonna just take, and I'm gonna put this here, tap it with my, oh, see, some of that powder stuck to my glue on the side here, so you can see that's why you should do the embossing on your DSP before you get this far on your card. But I'm going to wipe it off with my embossing buddy and hopefully correct any of those mistakes. And I hope you guys waited and watched this before you made that same mistake. All right, now I have my heat tool right here. I always like to start from the back to begin with. I feel like that starts it to adhere, and then it won't blow away when we put this on. So you do want to make sure you get it all. There you go. So it's like I never made a mistake. Any mistake that's correctable maybe isn't, no, it's still a mistake. I'm not going to say it's not a mistake. It would have been easier the other way. But, so you want to do that first. And my recommendation, I did take a ladies through making this card. So my recommendation in making this card is that you find the halfway point, and a little bit over on the left-hand side, you just, to where the earth is landing on the halfway point of that 5-inch tall piece. Okay, all right, so now we're ready to do the next bit, which is, I have some powder here from cleaning it off the card, but we'll be okay. So now I'm gonna put this piece on here and this piece here. Really wanted to get this done. I'm going on vacation in a couple of days, and I did promise my ladies I would get this up before I go. And so I made myself that same commitment. And you got the same thing. You've got a 1/4 of an inch border at the top, but 1/8 of an inch on both sides. And you've got your 2 sides there. So those are the only pieces that you put in to begin with. Then what we're gonna do is you have now a rectangle in all 4 corners, and we are going to flip these up. I do love this fold. As I said, I do like my measurements a bit better, but I think Mitasu Crafts for inspiring me and coming up with their bay window version that I could then alter to measurements that I found a little bit more suitable for my liking, but the idea is so great. Okay, so you can see this, how that's going, and then we're going to do the same thing here. Flip this up. I find that when I use my bone folder after I've put the green glue on a card, it actually helps to make it stick as well. So usually by the time I've done using the bone folder on it, then it has adhered well, so you can see, right? And now you'll see that you just pull in these wings, flatten these, and this gives you a card that is really 4 by 5.5, but it's bulkier, so you're glad that it's not the full 4 1/4 to get this into your envelope. And once we put the birds on, you know, you do have to kind of go gingerly. It does absolutely fit in, and I can show you that. It does absolutely fit in the envelope at the end, but you want to be careful putting it in, and it should be pretty easy for the recipient to take it out without any damage. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is take these 2 glimmer strips and we're going to adhere them here. And it's just, you know, to really make this a wow card with all that glimmer. I just really like it. And you could, this package also comes with silver, and we tried it with silver, and it was funny because I tried it with the darker, I don't know if it's navy or actually black. I'm not really sure what color that is, but I tried it with the silver and I liked it. And then I tried it with this color and I liked it. So I went back and forth to decide which color I liked better. And then I asked my daughter and she said, we'll try it with the silver. All right, let me see it now with the darker one. She did the same thing I did, went back and forth to try to decide. But in the end, we both preferred the darker glimmer paper. And so once she and I agreed, well, basically I had decided I liked this one better, but I always like to get a second, third, fourth, however many opinions I can. And but once she felt the same way that I did, I felt more confident about choosing this one. But they both look really, really nice. So I just wanted to let you know that. Okay, so now we have our last pieces. And I don't know if you can see this, but I'm missing one more strip. Is it in here? I did have this all cut out before I start. Yep, here it is. Okay, so if you can imagine, this was 1.5 by 6, and I cut off an inch. First I cut it right down the middle at 1/2 inch. No, so this is 1 inch. Oh my God, I told you wrong earlier in this. Yeah, I just cut off an inch. So this is 5 inches, right? So that on a 6-inch piece of paper, that would give you 1 inch left. And then I cut it down. So there was a 1/2 inch on both sides. And then I cut it down 1 inch, 1 inch. And then this is 1, 2, 3 3/4 inches in order to go on here. So that's how I did that. If you don't want to wait until the end of the video and see me cut one of these up. And that way too, all your stars are kind of going the same direction. I don't know if you can tell, but there is sort of a direction to these stars. Oh, there's a little bit too much glue, right? Have to clean that up. Put these pieces on. Some of my favorite people will be getting this card this year, so if you get it, if you don't get it, don't feel sad. Oh dear. Especially if you made it with me. If you made the card with me, I'm probably not going to send you one. All right. Times like this when I'm just gluing a lot of pieces on, I wish I had some music playing. At my Christmas in July, we had Christmas music going, of course. But you can see that once you prep, this really is an easy card that really packs a wow. So I was so excited to share it with you. And I wanted to share it with you in time for you to be able to order this bundle, the suite, because it does come with the DSP, the Glimmer DSP, and the Adventurous Skies DSP, because there's so much of that paper in there that will do this nice starry background. There we go. And then we have all our pieces on. And all we're going to have to add now are our doves. You see how quickly this comes along? I love it. Okay, so these are two of the doves. Well, there's two doves that come with the bundle. So you have the one with the wings spread out and the ones, I don't know how to explain the two, but I want to do two things to each of these birds. One is I'm just using, this is one of our old Stampin' Right markers that has like a smaller tip, but we have new ones now. I haven't gotten mine yet, but I am gonna get when you get a pack of 3, and I kind of missed that we even had them. So I'm thankful for my team who showed it to me, and I will be getting them, but I like to just put a little eye on each of them. The other thing I like to do, depending on, I would use Balmy Blue, or in this case I'm going to use Fresh Freesia to go with the Blackberry Bliss, but I'm just going to squeeze a little bit of color in my ink pot, and then I take my Winka Stella, and of course the Winka Stella adds a little sparkle too. So, and you just want such a faint color of this. You just really don't want it too dark. In fact, I'm going to try it on here first to see. Yeah. And then you're just going to put a little on the tips. So I'm going to like go back in, but I just don't want it too dark. And I want it the same, so if I got like this got a little bit darker than I meant for it to, so I kind of had to darken up a little bit of the bit before to kind of make it the same on the entire bird. See, so you just get this really faint color, and then also on the tail. As I spread the ink out in here, you can see it's fainter, so I don't feel so much like I have to check it over here. But as I come into this darker bit, I'm gonna have to again to do the other side. You can always add the light and then go darker, but it's harder to go dark and, you know, more or less impossible to then get it lighter. So I'm happy with this. See, and it just kind of makes them stand out a little bit more. And then on this one, same thing, the tail. embossing tips. Can always add more, can't take it off. That's my tip for you there. You can see that I'm picking up from the very light bits in here. First, and then if I can't get any more of the color in there, then I'll just creep in a little bit there. So I just had that one squeeze of the ink, and you can see that I still have quite a bit of it left on there because I'm really just using a faint amount of that color. You don't even have to do this if you don't, if it's not your thing, it's certainly okay. But I just like that. And as I said, with the darker colors, I just use the balmy blue for that effect. So there are our two doves. And now the last two pieces here. So these are some of our window sheets, and they're 1.5 inches by, this is by 1/2 inch, but you could do 3/8 of an inch. And then I like to do 2 glue dots. At either end on the same side. And then what I'm going to do is where this folds, I'm going to take it all the way to the top and put that in. And then I'm going to take the bird, the dove, and I am going to kind of sit it up to make sure I like where I'm placing it. The one consideration here is you want to make sure it'll still fold in and not go past. Actually, you do have a tiny bit, but the recommendation is not to go past this fold so that it still fits in your envelope nicely. And then we're going to just repeat that process with another 3/8 or 1/2 inch by 1.5 inches. Glue dots, 2 right next to each other on both ends on the same side of the window sheet. And then you're going to do the same thing in reverse. You're going to bring it all the way down here, right at this fold. It can be in a little bit, but basically at either fold, because what you're trying to do is frame the piece on earth. I hope that makes sense. I feel like I just showed it to imaginary people here and took it out of the camera view, but maybe I didn't. If you want to be sure that you're not going outside, you can fold this up and put your bird on that way. And then you can see, and then it looks like they are really flying, and you have the piece on earth right in the middle there. And you know what I just realized? Because this card is not finished, and I did not bring, they're already cut, but I am gonna have to run to get these, but I have these 3 stars that I want to put in here because I think it really balances it. So I'm sorry, but I'm gonna be off real quick. I'm back. I left these in my craft room. So there's a die that will cut 3 of these stars all at the same time. And this time I did use the silver. And I like the 3. And then I just put a glue dot on the back of each one. And then put it here. then another one here. Whoops, just got that glued out right on my finger. And we'll put that here. There you go. So isn't that, I just love how this came out. As I said, it folds right up like this and fits into one of our envelopes. And then you have the finished card. Aren't they great? And they sit up, 3D, just beautiful. And I'm going to, for those who want to stay and watch, I'm going to cut up a 6x6 piece of this DSP just so that people can see how to cut that. But for those of you who have already cut their 6x6 and your other pieces, this is the card. Thank you for watching. Okay, so I'm going to get out a piece of that paper. And as I said, there's several that have that star background. So I'm going to do one. There's more that have that Blackberry Bliss, but I'm going to do one. I made my first card of this. I actually made with I think I made it with the Midnight Muse. And I think this one's the Night of Navy. But I'm going to go ahead and do, since I see it right here, I'm going to go ahead and do this one. I really like it as well. So you start out with the 6x6. And the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to cut off 1 inch from the bottom. And then you're going to cut off, I like to try to do it so that they actually are continuous pieces. So instead of cutting 1 inch and then another inch this way, I do flip it to cut off the other inch. And that way, if there's any, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter, but you'll end up with 4 inches by 5 inches here. And that will, actually this should have been 3 3/4, right? So I'm gonna, and it did end up 4 inches. Yeah, so you want it 3 3/4. So you're gonna cut off, this ends up being a waste unless you wanna put it, I never did show them how to stamp the back of that. So you guys will get to see that. And maybe that could be a piece that would go on it. So you end up with this one that is 4 inches by 5. And then we have these that will be the 2 sides here. So that's the same thing as this piece and these 2 sides. So this would be the piece that you would do the piece on earth, like halfway above, right there. And then this piece that is 6 inches by 1, you just put it in your trimmer and you cut it in half first, and then you will cut, I think it's 3/4 of an inch from there, but no, it's an inch. Sorry, it's an inch because this is 1 1/4 inch fold. So you can do that, and then you can do that fold again. And then your last piece should also be 3 3/4. And I'm just going to double check while I'm telling you this. Yes. So now you're going to cut this at 3 3/4. So you're going to end up with 1/4 of an inch here. So I'm putting over to the right. These are the scraps that you're going to end up with. Whoa. And these are the pieces that you're actually going to need. So you'll have 2 of these for the top of the bay window, 2 small pieces on either end that are 1 inch, and this will be 3 3/4 by 1/2 inch. And then you'll have these, and then you'll cut up this one again to be 1 inch. 1 inch, and then 3 3/4 inches here. So you'll be cutting off another tiny piece here. Is that 3 3/4? It is. So why is that one so much smaller? And yet everything came out the same size, so it all worked. There we go. So you'll see that you get all the pieces you need from that DSP, and this is the only bit that you don't use, which I'm happy with. Now, what I didn't show them on their card, which I did have ready to go on my card. So you'll see, let's see, which one was my first one? I stamped here, may the spirit of the season bring you bring you hope, happiness, and love. Merry Christmas. So this white piece is 3 3/4 by 5 1/4 inches. And then I used, this is an online exclusive, Jolly Holly. This is available already now, but it has lots of different options for greetings, holly and jolly, bright and happy Christmas wishes. You've got happy, merry Christmas, joy, wishing you and yours all the best, have a happy Christmas, bells, poinsettia, holly, and sort of a spray. So this is kind of a nice versatile set for lots of little things at Christmas time, tags and other things. And I am going to go ahead and stamp this for you, but right side up. And I'll stamp it here. Now I use Blackberry Bliss on this because my card is Blackberry Bliss, but if I was doing the blue one, I would do the Night of Navy or the Misty Moonlight. That's the right color. Right name. Sometimes I use retired names. And then stamp the Merry Christmas. And then you can sign the card. And then I'll just adhere it to the card and we'll be done. And I really appreciate you staying with me this long. It's a beautiful card. It's a fast card. It really does not take that long. Would make a good card swap if I was in one. But right now I'm not in one, but maybe I will join one for, we have lots of those demonstrators can participate in. And so I think I'll watch out for one because, yeah, I'm excited about this card. I know everybody's taste is different, but I was really happy with it. So here we go. Finished project. I do hope you liked it. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you don't already. And I'd love to have your comments, hear where you're from, and see if you like the card. Thank you so much.